Hi there, YouTube. I've been up to something, you know, besides attending Landmark's daily funeral, playing Overwatch, and not working on the Hanzo bow. I've been making a Star Wars blaster. I think I've mentioned in a couple of videos that I want to make a custom Mandalorian costume. I've kind of been working on that. And like any other costume I do, I make myself like the key prop for it first to kind of help carry me through it. And, well, of course, I mean, that's a blaster. There's a lot of other stuff, like I've got the helmet halfway done, I've got one of the gauntlets halfway done. Uh, but I wanted to get the blaster finished first, because that's, like, that's key. And this is where we're going to start delving into a deep, deep, like, we're going to plumb the depths of my Star Wars fandom and where that will take me. So, where it started was this guy. Now, this is a toy gun I've had since I was a little kid, at least after 1991, which is terrifying to think about how long ago that was, because it's the date printed onto copyright saying it's 1991. Now, this is an Imperial Blaster. That's literally the brand name on it. Of course, they've changed the logo since then, but everything I've done to this after the fact has made it a modified Imperial Blaster. Yeah, that's where this starts. And that's too fun to have that not be like part of the story of this thing I'm making, which I haven't shown you yet, but it's in the thumbnail. So, you've been adequately teased or let up on that. So I didn't actually make it out of this one, obviously, because it's in my hand right here. But I found a couple, like exactly the same gun made now, and sort of worked off of those. I built it mostly out of that, but also this super cheap little sci-fi gun. I found at a retailer whose name I will not mention. So those two guns were most of what I used. The other biggest part is actually this. Now, this was a tube that went on like some eyeglass cleaner thing. They were on clearance. I picked them up because that's just a great little science fiction greebly thing. Initially, I was just going to have them like hooked on a belt or something, but then I was like, that would make a good gun barrel. So I did that. And this guy is the half-finished brother to the completed project. Because initially, I was going to make two of these, dual wield, because, yeah. But then the more I look at it, it's like most people who do a Mandalorian costume do that. Which is nothing against that, but it made it not what I wanted to do, because I am, at some level, a dirty, dirty hipster. So, briefly talk about how I put this guy together. It was pretty easy. It was mostly just taking the, the slide cocking mechanism. I don't know. I'm not a gun guy. I don't really do technical terms and shit like that. Taking that off, sawing a big part of this top half off, and then just gluing, the top chunk of that other cheap sci-fi gun on top of it. It actually fit almost perfectly. About the only thing I had to do is there was a bit of a gap I had to Bondo in, but, that wasn't hard. I did sort of have to fill in some front gaps with, greeblies and random stuff, but that's where the fun comes in, is teasing that out. And then just adding the barrel onto it, because that literally just slid right onto it, and I just glued onto it, and then a little chunk of PVC pipe. Sorry, I shouldn't point that right at the camera. That's bad form. A little chunk of PVC pipe just for the barrel, and to make it clear that the barrel doesn't go anywhere. So, okay, so I got everything put together, kind of had it how I wanted it, and then all that was left was to paint it. So the first thing I started out with, was of course a coat of black primer, and then I wanted to start with a layer of metallic black. The store I went to didn't have a metallic black. It only had oil-rubbed bronze, which looked a lot like metallic black, but then I got it on there and it was more brownish than that. Not unpleasantly so. Yeah, you see, you'd think I'd, spend all this time on this thing and be like, no, I want exactly the paint I want. I'm not going to leave this to chance. But it was like, why not? That'll be fine. It'll just be a happy little accident, however it turns out. Man, I hope it's not terrifying to watch me wave this thing around while I'm recording the video. I mean, it is super fake. is so fake, you don't even believe it. Then the next step I took was adding a little bit of matte black just to kind of scruff it up a little bit. It looked too neat and too clean and too perfect. And those two early paint steps are absolutely invisible because everything I did after that totally covered it up. So I added. That was when I went to the Rub and Buff. At the recommendation of the masterful Adam Savage, which I have I've used once before, but mostly in terms of just adding an overall metallic sheen to something, never to try to bring out, you know, the rough parts and weathering and wear on a prop. So it was an experiment, and my first pass didn't go great. I thought it would move around a lot more once I got it on the prop, and it didn't. But I might have been using inadequate rags for it. I don't know. I got it to turn out all right eventually by sort of adding a little bit more gloss black on top of the Rub and Buff, and then highlighting some of the edges with a metallic Sharpie. So he looks a lot better on camera than I thought he would. And I am pretty happy with how he turned out. Not, 100% happy, but, it is the sort of thing, man, I gotta turn the autofocus off. This is gonna be awful. Yeah, hopefully that didn't ruin the first chunk of this. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. It is the sort of thing, on a project like this, you get to a point where you are no longer asking yourself, what do I have left to do? You're asking yourself, am I done? Because with things like this, you get it to a stage where it's a question, adding one thing to it could make it perfect, or it could turn it into a dumpster fire that you just threw everything but the kitchen sink into. So I'm asking myself this, and I might add something before I take this to a con. I don't know yet. The only solution to that is going to be time. Now, for this guy, about the only thing to talk about that I didn't mention on the previous models, I suppose it'd probably be the scope. Initially, I did not have a scope on it. I had something kind of like a scope. It was a little thing that I've actually pulled off and added to a gauntlet as a flamethrower, but I bought a different toy sniper rifle that came with a scope. That sniper rifle was probably going to be the guts of my bowcaster at some point, but I used the scope on this because throwing a scope on the pistol immediately made it feel more Star Wars. So as far as construction goes, that's most of what there is to be said about this guy. Now let's talk about what it is, what it means, and what it feels like. Sure, why not? The biggest inspiration for this, I would say, probably fairly obviously, is Han Solo's DL-44. I basically looked at the DL-44 and said, I'm going to make that, but out of all the wrong parts. I liked the general shape of the initial gun, and as I mentioned, I've had this since I was a kid. This kind of always spoke to me as being a good gun shape. I feel like it's probably based off of a real gun, but I haven't found, what gun it is yet in all the looking I've done, which hasn't been a ton, but so I kind of took that and tried to make it into something like the DL-44, either that would have been manufactured by like a different company to be, like the DL-44, but probably not. What I'm really thinking, since we are talking about a modified Imperial blaster, now, we're going to go full nerd hat here, guys. Blastech Industries made the DL-44. Blastech Industries did, like, all the Empire's guns and a big chunk of the Rebellion's guns, because, of course, they just got whatever they could, wherever they could. And I'm still teasing out what this guy is, like, where he would fit in my little, like, fan chunk of Star Wars canon. Looking at him, just recently as I was finishing up, particularly this section, kind of looks like the DC-17s that clone commanders and other people used. But, like, Rex is the guy that most famously uses those. That's interesting. Or not, I don't know. I can't tell. I'm too close, kid me out. So, if this is kind of between a DL-44 and a DC-17, as though they had some manner of terrible, illegitimate love affair and had some forbidden love child, which would be this guy. Alphanumerically, that would indicate that he would be a DH-30. Now, in all the looking I've done, there is no official gun in Star Wars canon that is a DH-30. There's a DH, like, what was it? Yeah, there was a DH-17. That's what all the rebel troopers on the Tantive 4 used in the opening of Episode 4. So, I mean, this could fit that. It could be that. Until they, bring out something that is that and excludes this from being that, this could be that. So thanks for watching, guys. I am glad I'm getting back into building stuff and talking about it, because I feel that has not been my focus enough. And of course, I've got a lot of, bounty hunter stuff half done, so that's going to roll out a little bit faster than other things have not. So I hope you're looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to telling you about it. This has been the Gunverine, signing off.